Welcome once again to Tom's Hit Parade. It is again Backtracks time, this time for August 2018, of course. And I got struck with the inspiration just a few days ago, actually, to add a little something to Backtracks from now on, at least for the time being anyway, unless I get tired of it or decide it's not a good idea or get negative feedback or whatever. But I decided as long as I'm doing album anniversaries, why not throw in some birthdays each month as well? So I'll just be doing that kind of in the same format, you know, just the noteworthy birthdays divisible by 5, and just one or two examples of each. So let's go ahead and get started. Happy 100th birthday this month to Leonard Bernstein. He is the composer who brought us the musicals West Side Story and On the Town, and was for a while the conductor of the New York Philharmonic Orchestra. Happy 90th birthday to singer Eddie Fisher, who was of course the father of actress Carrie Fisher. This month is the 85th birthday of jazz saxophonist Wayne Shorter, who is a member of the band Weather Report, and also was a featured soloist on the soundtrack from the 1993 film The Fugitive, which also coincidentally celebrates its 25th anniversary this month. Happy 80th birthday to legendary country singer Kenny Rogers. This month marks the 75th birthday of pop R&B singer Ronnie Spector. Turning 70 years old this month is Led Zeppelin frontman Robert Plant. 65th birthday wishes go out this month to jazz pianist David Benoit. This month would have seen the 60th birthday of King of Pop Michael Jackson, and also celebrating this month is pop legend Madonna. 55 years ago this month saw the birthday of James Hetfield, frontman for Metallica, as well as the late pop diva Whitney Houston. Happy 50th birthday this month to Michael Bivins of the pop groups New Edition and Belle Biv DeVoe. 45 years ago this month saw the birthday of Backstreet Boy Howie Dorough. Julian Casablancas of The Strokes celebrates his 40th birthday this month. Pop singer Mika celebrates his 35th. Happy 30th birthday this month to country pop singer Casey Musgraves. Happy 25th birthday this month to Liam Payne of One Direction. And happy 20th birthday this month to Shawn Mendes. And now let's go ahead with the album anniversaries this month. 55 years ago, Sam Cooke released his 12th album, Night Beat. It featured a 16-year-old organist named Billy Preston, who would later go on to have a successful solo career himself. It featured the songs Mean Old World, Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen, his version of Willie Dixon's Little Red Rooster, as well as the Big Joe Turner classic, Shake, Rattle and Roll. Also released that month, Bobby Vinton's 6th album, Blue on Blue, which would later be retitled Blue Velvet and reach number 10 on the Billboard charts. It featured songs about the color blue, as the titles may suggest, featuring Blue on Blue, which reached number 3 on the charts, Blue Velvet, which went number 1 for 3 weeks, as well as the Irving Berlin classic Blue Skies, the Fats Domino hit Blueberry Hill, and the classic song Blue Moon. Half a century ago, Jeff Beck debuted with his first album, Truth. His band consisted of Rod Stewart, who did most of the lead vocals, as well as Ronnie Wood, who would of course go on to later fame with the Rolling Stones. The album peaked at number 15 on the Billboard 200 charts, and it featured the singles Beck's Bolero, as well as I Ain't Superstitious and You Shook Me, which were both by Willie Dixon, as well as the Yardbird song Shapes of Things and the classic Greensleeves. Also released that month was the second and final album by Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell, entitled You're All I Need. It peaked at number 60 on the Billboard 200 charts, and featured the Ashford and Simpson songs Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing and You're All I Need to Get By, which both became top 10 hits on this album. 45 years ago this month, Stevie Wonder's 16th album, Inner Visions, was released. It peaked at number 4 on the Billboard charts and spent over 4 months in the top 20 and then all of the following year in the Billboard Top 200. It was his first UK top 10 album at number 8 and featured the singles Higher Ground, Living for the City, and Don't You Worry About a Thing. Also released in August of 1973 was Brothers and Sisters, the 4th album by the Allman Brothers Band. It was their most commercially successful album, peaking at number 1 on the Pop Albums chart for 5 weeks. And it featured the songs Jessica and Ramblin' Man, which reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. In August of 1978, The Who's 8th album, Who Are You, was released. It was their last album featuring drummer Keith Moon, who died 3 weeks after its release. It peaked at number 2 on the US charts, held off from the number 1 spot by the Grease soundtrack, and also reached number 6 on the UK charts. It featured the title track, which of course later gained fame as the theme song from the TV series CSI, as well as the single Trick of the Light. Also released 40 years ago this month was Devo's debut album Are We Not Men, We Are Devo. It reached number 78 on the Billboard 200 charts, number 12 on the UK charts, and it was produced by Brian Eno and co-produced by David Bowie. It featured the singles Jocko Homo, Come Back Joni, and their version of the Rolling Stones song I Can't Get No Satisfaction. 35 years ago this month, Billy Joel's 9th album An Innocent Man was released. It was on the Billboard chart for a staggering 111 weeks, peaking at number 4. It reached number 2 in the UK and number 1 on the New Zealand charts. It did receive a Grammy nomination for Album of the Year, but it lost out to Michael Jackson's Thriller. It featured the top 10 singles Tell Her About It, Uptown Girl, and An Innocent Man, as well as singles The Longest Time and Keepin' the Faith. Also released in August of 1983, AC/DC's 9th album Flick of the Switch. It was the first album produced by the band themselves, and the first since 1978 not to be produced by Mutt Lange. It reached number 15 on the Billboard 200 charts, top 10 in the UK and Australia, and featured the singles Guns for Hire, Nervous Shakedown, and the title track. 3 decades ago, in August of 1988, Jane's Addiction's major label debut album Nothing's Shocking was released. It peaked at number 103 on the Billboard 200 charts, but eventually went platinum, and is ranked number 312 on Rolling Stone's Greatest Albums of All Time list. It featured the singles Jane Says, Mountain Song, and Ocean Size. Also released that month, and this goes under the heading of Life's Too Short to Be a Music Snob, Yanni's 4th album Chameleon Days. Now, I went through a New Age phase back in the late 80s, early 90s, and this is kind of the album that started it all. As background noise for the job that I worked at a bookstore, we had the local New Age station on, and they played one of the songs off this one, Everglade Run, and it really caught my ear for some reason. When I first got into music, really, I was more into the instrumental stuff like movie scores, jazz, instrumental jazz and stuff, and New Age, and that kind of, that's where that kind of fed my music taste at the time. And mind you, this is back when Yanni's music had some real life to it. It wasn't the snoozy, cure for insomnia that it is now. I would recommend, if you're not afraid to listen to anything, try out a couple tracks from this album, Chameleon Days, particularly Everglade Run, as I said. I think you might be pleasantly surprised. A quarter of a century ago, in August of 1993, Garth Brooks released his 5th album, In Pieces. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and Country Albums charts. It went number 1 in Ireland, Canada, and Australia, and it featured the number 1 country singles Ain't Goin' Down Till the Sun Comes Up and American Honky Tonk Bar Association. Also released 25 years ago this month was Sheryl Crow's debut album, Tuesday Night Music Club. It peaked at number 3 on the Billboard 200 and went number 1 in Australia and was top 10 in the UK and France, as well as 5 other countries. It featured the top 10 singles All I Wanna Do, Strong Enough, and also the singles Can't Cry Anymore and Leaving Las Vegas. Happy 20th anniversary to Lauryn Hill's debut album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. It reached number 1 on the Billboard 200 charts and broke a record for the first week sales by a female artist. It also broke records for the most Grammy nominations at 10 and wins at 5 by a female artist. It featured the singles Doo-Wop, That Thing, X Factor, and Everything is Everything. Also released in August of 1998 was Back to Titanic. This was the sequel soundtrack album to the James Cameron blockbuster movie Titanic, and it climbed to number 2 on the Billboard 200 charts, despite being released a whole 8 months after the movie. It was kept from the number 1 spot, incidentally, by The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. It featured, of course, the James Horner score, as well as performances by I Salonisti and Gaelic Storm. 15 years ago this month, electronic artist BT released his 4th album, Emotional Technology. It was his highest charting album at number 138 on the Billboard 200 charts. It featured the singles Superfabulous featuring Rose McGowan, Somnambulist, Simply Being Loved featuring JC Chasez of NSYNC, which, by the way, holds the Guinness World Record for the most vocal edits in a single track at, get this, 6,178. I don't know who counted those, but... Also released that month was Snow Patrol's debut album, Final Straw. It reached number 91 on the Billboard 200 charts. It went gold in 2008, but also reached number 1 in Ireland and number 3 in the UK. It featured the singles Spitting Games, Ruin, and Chocolate. Happy 10th anniversary to Lady Gaga's debut album, The Fame. It reached number 10 on the US charts, although it went to number 2 after the Fame Monster 2-disc re-release came out. It went to number 1 in 10 countries. It received 5 Grammy nominations, including Album of the Year, and it won the Electronic Dance Album category. It featured the singles Just Dance and Poker Face, which received 3 Grammy nominations itself, including Song of the Year and Record of the Year, as well as a win for Best Dance Recording. And it also featured the single Paparazzi. Also released in August of 2008 was B.B. King's 42nd and final studio album, One Kind Favor. It was produced by T-Bone Burnett and featured Dr. John on piano. It won the Grammy for Best Traditional Blues Album and featured the songs Sitting on Top of the World, Backwater Blues, I Get So Weary, and the eerily titled See That My Grave Is Kept Clean. 5 years ago this month, rock band Parachute released their 3rd album, Overnight. It peaked at number 15 on the Billboard 200 charts and featured the singles Can't Help, Disappear, and the title track. This is a great rock band, by the way. Give them a try, Parachute. I really enjoy them. So, also released that month was Racine Carré, the 2nd album from Belgian artist Stromae. He is an electronic R&B artist. Very interesting, and an interesting story of how I happened upon him. I was actually at a store up in Portland looking in the Huey Lewis in the News place card, just seeing what they might have, any rarities or whatnot, and for some reason this was misfiled in there, probably by some careless previous customer, just stuck it in there. And I have a soft spot for French music, music with French lyrics, so I just decided, what the hell, I'd give it a try, and I actually really enjoyed it. It's not normally my thing, but of course the fact that it's in French has probably something to do with it. But anyway, it's very good, a very happy accident that I stumbled upon this. Anyway, this album reached number 1 across Europe, went top 10 in Canada, and featured the song Papaute, which was covered by Pentatonix on their Volume 3 release, as well as Formidable and Tous les Mêmes. Very good album. Give them a try. Okay, now this brings us, of course, to the Spotlight album. The Spotlight album is 50 years old this month, and it was kind of cheating in a way because I didn't actually have to buy it. It was in my collection from my brother-in-law and sister's collection. Anyway, without further ado, let's present Cheap Thrills by Big Brother and the Holding Company, featuring Janis Joplin. Now, I gotta tell you, this is probably the most fun I've had listening to a Backtrack Spotlight album possibly ever, at least since Led Zeppelin and Bruce Springsteen, which were 2 of the first. This is a fantastic album. You might think on first listen that it's a live album because they actually inserted what ended up being fake crowd noise in at the beginning of track 1 on side A. But although the final track, Ball and Chain, was actually recorded live, the rest of it was just in studio. But just a fantastic album. It's only got 7 tracks on it, but they're all fantastic. I mean, the musicianship is just unbelievable. The guitarist is absolutely wicked on here, and Janis Joplin does most of the vocal duties, but not quite all of them. There's another vocalist that does sings on some of the other songs, but she is, I mean, even if you don't particularly care for the kind of voice Janis Joplin has, it just rivets you to the speakers or headphones in this case. It's just, it has such power. Her voice has such power, and you can tell why she's a legend. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I highly recommend this album, Cheap Thrills by Big Brother and the Holding Company. It's fantastic. She does a version of the Gershwin classic song Summertime, which, I mean, her voice sounded a little bit strained on that one. I kind of wonder what it might have sounded like if she'd chosen a lower register with, letting her voice loose a little bit more. But still, it was great. And Piece of My Heart, which is one of her classic hits. Turtle Blues, Oh Sweet Mary, Ball and Chain, which is the final track, the one that was recorded live. But I mean, every track on here is just amazing. like I said, I can't say enough good things about this album. Go out and get it if you don't have it yet. Cheap Thrills, Big Brother and the Holding Company. One of the most rewarding backtrack spotlight listens I have had so far. Just renews my enthusiasm for doing this feature every month. And I got to tell you, sometimes it's just a struggle getting through these. I mean, this is one of the note-intensive. You can see here, I make notes because there's just so much information to relay each month. So yeah, Backtracks is probably the most intimidating one to get through each month. But I know some of my viewers out there really appreciate it and enjoy watching it. So it's my pleasure to bring it to you. I hope you enjoyed it this month. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And again, hope to see you next weekend. Thanks so much for watching again. And remember, life's too short to be a music snob.